if it didn't say Hanes on it, but you wear a pair of cut off jean shorts and you have the right kind of progressively socially acceptable flair, you could get away with it. Now, if you wear a dirty, you know,
Like jizz stained whitey
whitey
tidy
tighties
whities. Yeah.
and a beer stained white wife beater,
You might get some pushback.
yeah, you're going to get some pushback.
You're listening to everyone's favorite show. A show about what makes us tick. Alright, he's ready. Welcome to everyone's favorite show. I'm joined here by my buddy Justin. Justin's a woodworker, dad, hunter, and cool dude extraordinaire. So we're just going to have a chat about some stuff for a while and ask him about a lot of his favorite things and maybe some things he won't want to answer. We'll see what happens. So Justin, how's it going, buddy?
It's going awesome. Glad to be here.
Thanks for coming. It's much like a lot of the recent interviews. This one's been a little harder to line up, but that's okay. We've got it. Everybody's here now, and we're ready to rock and roll. So you're a woodworker currently, right?
Woodworker, designer, problem solver.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what I get paid to do more than anything.
Yeah. So like, before we talk about your current situation or like what you're doing currently, how did you get into woodworking in the first place?
Ooh, that's a short form answer, a long form answer.
Long. Go ahead. Give it to me.
So I went to college for sociology, social work, and then went to seminary and worked for Illinois' version of CPS for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And through 4 years undergrad.
So seminary. Where'd you go to seminary?
Lincoln Christian Seminary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what kind of what kind of church is that?
It's the denomination is Christian Church, Church of Christ. I had grown up in an Assembly of God church. I went to a very liberal arts school for the first year of college, and I was an honors student, had honors philosophy courses and things like that really shook my world up. And my world had already been, in truth, my world had already been shaken up by my parents. After 20 years of marriage, decided to call it quits. And things have been going downhill for a while. So when I was 17 and halfway through my senior year of high school, I moved out of my parents' house.
Yeah.
And I moved in with a buddy of mine whose mom was the choir director of the church that my dad had taken us to while we were growing up. And they were parents for me. They really supported me, supported, the school I was going to, sometimes even financially. And they were fantastic. Well, Pat was a year behind me in school, and he was going to go to Lincoln Christian College, and he's like, "Hey, come with me." He never said come with me until I expressed some serious concerns about what I was learning about, I was having what I called a crisis of faith at that point. And that was really important to me, and it is still important to me, but in a different way now. But my world was really shook up. So I left, and I went to Lincoln Christian College for 2 years. And addressed, I'm not going to say answered, but addressed some of those questions of faith that certainly grounded me in some ways, but also strengthened my critical thinking skills. Maybe not intentionally. Obviously, a Christian college is going to be very one-sided in that perspective. But I had serious questions, and I was like, I needed these questions more than I needed an education.
Yeah.
That was really important to me. Well, after 2 years, I'm like, I'm not going to be a preacher. I know I want to do social work or philanthropic work. So I went back to Millikan.
Yeah.
And then I did end up going back to Lincoln for a period of time for graduate studies. But that once I had worked in the social work field for a couple of years, and I'd just gotten married and everything, and was like, I can't do this. Through all school, I didn't drink at all through college, but I did during the course of that job. Smoking really took a hold. Like one of the jobs I did was if law enforcement would go to a house after hours, I would get called if statements had to be taken from children or children had to be removed from the home for life safety issues or things like that. Like I was the after hours person.
Oh yeah.
And saw some pretty terrible examples of humanity. Had to testify a bunch. Got arrested once for contempt of court because I lost my shit with the judge.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was not cool.
Sounds pretty cool to me.
Well, it was pretty terrible.
I mean, I think just so that you and the viewers, listeners, I always say viewers. There's nobody watching this. Maybe one day we'll have video if we make it past 100 episodes. That's my deal. If it's past 100 episodes, I'll start working on video stuff. But so, any hooser, we are totally okay with going off on judges on this podcast. As a matter of fact, we advocate, we encourage said behavior.
And there was,
as long as you understand civil disobedience comes with a price.
And there were some great judges, and there were some great caseworkers, and unfortunately, like government social service caseworkers get a terrible rap, and institutionally, I think they deserve it. But there are some people out there that have literally served, because you make pennies doing that job.
Yeah. So do you think that it's the biggest problem is the lack of people? You don't have enough people to process the cases?
No, that is one facet of a problem. And from my point of view, now my point of view is 20 years old. Okay, so it's
because it's still the same.
No, it's worse.
Well, that's what I mean. It's definitely not better.
No, it's not better. The level of bureaucracy involved. Like there are so many layers and so many people and so many channels you have to go through to do anything.
Yeah. And
I did 4 different functions. 2 of them were on a contract basis and 2 of them were like regular paying jobs. One of which was like part-time after hours and one of which was semi-full-time, and I am going to school. And the level of bureaucracy, the tremendous lack of training.
Yeah.
The lack of training for, like, the training for anybody was in how to file the paperwork.
Right.
The training wasn't in how to deal with interpersonal relationships, how to be diplomatic, how to read people, how to...
Should they assume that's part of the education for a degree in that type of work?
No, it's not. It wasn't even a considered factor ever.
Huh.
Not even a little bit. Only when you get to your not-for-profit agencies like Dove, or there was one other one. It was a crisis intervention, and I don't even remember the name of it now. But if a young person is admitted to the hospital because of like pretty egregious abuse, they're a not-for-profit counselor, and they have on-call counselors. They have people that are like, not in the negative term, but literally ambulance chasing at the hospital to support victims of abuse. Yeah. And it's all not-for-profit, and most of the core are volunteer people. So there's a lot of good people out there trying to have a positive impact, but there's no support, there's no money, there's no training, and the people that have the training or have the experience oftentimes don't have the degree pedigree, and so they don't move up, they don't become policy changers, because these are all bureaucrats. Like, so little of this is actually the rules are legislated, but how to interpret and the function and the modus operandi, so to speak, that's all bureaucratic. That's all bureaucrats that figure that out.
Yeah.
Like in Illinois, there's 22 directors of health and human services for either a county or a group of counties. And that's everything that falls under health and human services in the state budget reports to that. Like, that's the top. And then those 22 people in whatever 2000 answered to the Senate Committee for Health and Human Services. That's who they answered to. And it was just a weird indoctrination. Like, I mean, I had gone to school for sociology, and I didn't learn any of this stuff in school. So $16,000 in student loans later, and I learned a lot of theory and read a lot of interesting stuff and a lot of ridiculous stuff.
Yeah.
And no training whatsoever. None.
No, well, you know, that's why doctors practice medicine. You know.
My wife and I just talked about that.
Because that's what, you know, there's no answers. People are outraged about a lot of shit in this country, but I don't hear anybody screaming about the 250,000 people that die every year from medical accidents and shit.
I don't know, man. I've watched a lot of TED Talks and heard a lot about that.
Yeah, but you don't see a lot of outrage about it. You see outrage about stupid statistics.
You see outrage.
I mean, kids dying at schools and mass shootings is sad. But that's 343 kids a year. I don't know, man.
See, I guess it's from my, again, subjective experience.
So just from the statistics, you have to assume that at least half of, or at least a third of those 250,000 are kids who are dying from medical accidents. So why aren't we getting upset about the 75,000 kids, or maybe even 80,000 kids who are dying every year from medical accidents?
I have one very simple answer for that maybe doesn't encapsulate all, but certainly the majority. Non-disclosure settlement agreements.
Yeah, that could be part of it, I suppose.
My wife works.
Who pays for all that
in
shit?
Insurance. The medical malpractice insurance.
Yeah, but who pays for all that shit?
We do, or our insurance companies do.
Right, we do. It's not all our insurance companies, because if we don't pay the insurance companies don't have any moolah.
That's not true. The majority of the money that insurance companies make, for the most part, is backing Medicare.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Backing Medicare?
All the big insurance companies have a vested interest in the Medicare system, in that sort of, in either backing the government in some form or another, cost control, like they run all that.
Well, that's who wrote the ACA, right? The insurance companies wrote that. It's like, how weird is it that the people who stand to gain the most from the bill get to write it? But you don't hear an outrage about that when one guy does it for one thing. But when in other instances, when other businesses are doing the same thing, you hear about it. When oil companies are writing, you know, laws and shit, you hear about it.
Well, but I think when you get up at that level...
I mean, how many people are you helping with something that's forcing people that can't afford to buy a product to buy it?
Oh, you're not helping at all.
Right. You're making the problem worse. Right?
But should people have to, and now we're really off the rails, but should people have to, and there is a strong scientific argument you can make that if someone has a vested interest in taking care of themselves,
right,
they are, I didn't phrase that right. If someone has if they have a level of obligation to help take care of themselves, I still didn't phrase it right. I had the thought in my head, and now you're going to have to edit the shit out of this. I'm sorry.
It doesn't get edited.
Oh,
it's all going to be left there. Sorry, dude. So just sum it up without using the proper words.
I just feel like if
you got something in the game, that you're going to work a little harder and accomplish more.
Yeah, but that's honestly, that's why Diana stays at her job. Like, she works for one of the biggest insurance companies in the world.
Yeah.
She is amazing. I mean, you've seen The Incredibles.
Yeah.
Okay. The Bob Parr's boss, the little guy that gets punched through the wall, they're penetrating the bureaucracy. Yeah. You know, like that. Okay, she's the evil insurance shark. I mean, that's what she is, and managing litigated claims and looking at high exposure, like mass casualty, catastrophic loss claims. And so she's talking to other insurance companies. She's talking to insureds. She's talking to people who got hurt. And I think she takes, subjective again, a very human tactic. She's genuinely concerned about the human beings that the decisions that she makes impacts their life. And nothing will make my wife work until 11:30 when their system shuts down, like making sure that the people whom she is obligated to make sure that they're paid because of injury, she routinely scores worse on her performance metrics because she makes sure that people get paid before checking all the investor boxes.
Right.
But that's her job. So I hear about she worked on, remember you ever hear about the claim that like brought stop saws like into mass media?
No.
Dude in Massachusetts is cutting on a shitty little Ryobi table saw on the floor, blade up all the way, no guard, no fence, freehanding a piece of laminate flooring.
Oh, jeez.
And then cuts 2 fingers off. And then sues Ryobi and Ryobi's parent company because they knew about saw stop technology but chose not to put it on their $100 entry-level table saw.
Oh, yeah.
And dramatically changed rules and regulations about table saws. And
Really?
it changed OSHA rules all over the place. And this was 2010. She worked on aspects of those cases.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like, that's kind of bullshit. And she's like, look, I know, like, I work in insurance, and I know insurance is bullshit. Like, take a responsibility for yourself. And that's why, and the whole point of this, that's why she stays at the job she does, because she gets better benefits than I have ever seen anywhere for anyone.
Yeah.
And
well, and that's what they do. They probably pretty easy for them to just toss it in.
I mean,
on top of the customer's shit or something.
But, you know, she carries all 6 of us, medical, dental, vision.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and if you have a good employer, insurance is reasonable. And you can get good insurance reasonably.
And it is. And,
yeah.
I mean, fuck, I'm going to put out 3.
Do I think it's fucked up that it's that way? Yes, I do. But there are a lot of laws that restrict insurance companies from grouping people together who just want to be grouped together for no reason, too.
Yeah, you got to go outside
of
insurance.
Yeah, there's a lot of rules about all of it that keep people from pooling their resources in the ways they want to, which kind of makes it hard. So we don't know what it would look like if people were actually allowed to help each other the way they wanted to.
Well,
you know.
Well, to that end, a good friend of mine, his sister is a financial blogger.
Yeah.
Like, she makes bank writing like travel blogs and financial blogs, like personal finance.
Yeah.
Her husband was a mortician. He quit his job to run the advertising and selling aspect of her blogging full time. So they travel 20 weeks a year, like internationally, with the kids, and they're like, well, we need insurance. So they went what was it? It was a Christian health savings account. So it's not insurance, but you like pay into a pool.
Yeah.
And the rules are very different, but it's how they got away from, and she's done a bunch of blog posts about, if we were to buy insurance on the exchange, this is what we'd pay. You know, and they both have some ongoing health issues, but they pay less. So they found a way around it, but you do have to have, you know, middle class income to be and some capital to do that.
Right.
And you know, they're really strict about, like, you can't smoke and shit like that. So it is possible.
Well,
but
I mean, that's part of the deal, though, is that, you know, you need rules like that are preferable to laws. Like, you know, if you have insurance companies that say you can't smoke, we're going to monitor your diet. Even if that's the case, like for a discount, like you have car insurance guys who, like, they'll put a thing on your car that sees your driving habits, and if your driving habits match their criteria, then you can get insurance half of what I can pay for it. But that's okay. I would rather not do that. And it's the same with the insurance. Like, if you have better, you know, if you take better care of yourself, you'll get lower prices on the insurance. So it's an incentive to do that. And it's much better. I mean, and those options would be much better. And there would be ways that you know, you could even have just a thing on your policy. Would you contribute an extra $10 a month to help somebody with a pre-existing condition coverage? Yeah, everybody would fucking check it. Everybody would pay $10 extra to help somebody who had a pre-existing condition, and then they could charge that guy a reasonable amount for his fucking insurance.
Well, that's the other thing.
You know?
That's...
Like, people are actually checking the box to give $3 to fucking presidential campaigns. It's like, why don't you fucking help other people out instead of helping these fucking numbnuts who can't... All they can agree on is a goddamn raise for themselves, man. And wars. They can't agree on nothing else yet.
Oh, don't... Yeah, oof. Oh, man.
But anyways, so about woodworking. How did you get into woodworking now after you left the seminary?
So,
after you finished social work.
So I finished in 3 weeks. Three things happened.
We got way off the path there. Sorry, folks.
Oh, no apologies.
That's how it works.
So I'd been married for a couple of months, and in about 2 or 3 weeks' time, our wages were froze because, 20 years ago, Illinois couldn't get their budget shit together. So not only were our wages froze, but paychecks were froze across the board. Like, nobody got paid for anything.
Yeah.
For like 3 weeks. I had 9 calls after midnight in 2 weeks. I got shot at, and that was also when I got handcuffed by the bailiff and arrested for contempt of court because I lost my shit with the judge.
Real nice.
So, yeah, all while I'm not being paid.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can't live like this. And my wife was very concerned about me. I was drinking very, very heavily. And I'm like, you know what? Like, this is going to stop. So I went hunting for a week. Just put everything down. Went by myself.
What kind of hunting?
What's that?
What kind of hunting?
I just went deer hunting.
Oh, okay.
And that's what I told people I was doing. I just went out and sat.
Yeah, just to get away. Recharge, reset.
And I came home and I picked up the phone book and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I wasn't doing that well that semester. I was so dialed in with the job and being married. So I dropped all my classes, and I picked up the phone book and started calling people looking for a job. And I thought, I'd help build some sets. I'd work some camps. I've worked on farms a lot as a kid. I'll try construction. And this one guy hired me for $8 an hour framing, as a grunt framing.
Yeah. Like houses?
Yeah, framing residential houses. But he also did a lot of, I didn't know at the time, about half his business was with fire and water insurance work. So he hires me for $8 an hour. I started the day after Christmas. And about 3 weeks in, he calls all of us to his house that he's been building, and it's in like final punch list stage, but all his office cabinets got delivered that day. And I'm like putting switch plate covers on and stuff, and I see these just amazing cabinets come in, and I'm like, and I see these guys put this shit in, and they're doing top shelf trim work, and there's 3 of them, and they just bangered it.
Yeah.
And it was just awesome. And I'm like I just stared like all day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to fucking do that.
Uh-huh.
Like fuck humping 2x4s in sub-zero weather.
Yeah.
I want to do that. And it was a long road to get there. The guy fired me once and then hired me back. But after he hired me back, I grew up a little bit. I had done apartment maintenance during college, so I had some variety skills. And so first he'd send me to these fire jobs and, tear out all the lath and plaster. And then he started to pick up on, I can do a few other things. And then it took about a year and a half after he had hired me back to just kind of leave me to my own devices. And within about 2 years, like, the insurance adjusters are coming out, and I'm working out with them, and he's giving me, back in the days of the Nextel phone, he's like,
oh, yeah.
Just, beat me and let me know what the number is. Every now and then he'd come. And then so my old framing foreman got real pissed at me because the one trim carpenter quit and the other one went on vacation, and I was like the trim carpenter helper, like I'd trim out closets and bedrooms.
Uh-huh.
And then the primary one went on vacation, and he's like, well, we're finishing this house in the subdivision. He's like, you're going to meet me over there and you're going to do the trim package takeoff with the sales guy, and then you'll start trimming the next week. And I'm like, the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, seriously? And he's like, yeah, just, I'm going to have you start upstairs. If you get downstairs before Tom gets back, cool. But, we'll save the stairs for Tom, but I think you can handle the mantle.
Yeah.
So then our old framing foreman finds out that, and he'd been angling to move inside to be a trim guy for like 5 or 6 years.
Oh, yeah.
So he's fucking pissed.
I bet.
But so I did that, and then I did a few other side jobs. And my brother had come to Indy in 2000, and he worked for Worldwide. Got hired right out of tech school at Worldwide Motors, the Benz dealer.
Yeah.
And he'd been on me for like a year. He's like, man, he finally was like, I'll bet you $100 if you come over here with pictures of what you've done. And there's shops everywhere.
Yeah.
This is 2005. He's like, I'll bet you $100 you get a job on one day. I'm like, no. And he's like, I'm serious. I did. I came over here. I got a job on one day.
Yeah.
And it was doing built-ins and cabinets.
Yeah.
And then one of the guy that hired me had worked for Acorn Woodworks, which is probably about the most premier millwork shop, at least in North and Central Indiana.
Yeah.
And he called me about 6 months later and said, I'd gone to visit him that day. And he's like, no, you're not ready yet. Move to Indy. You know, I'll keep your resume on file. Come see me in a year or two when you've had some shop experience. You might be ready then. Well, 6 months later, he calls me. He talks to the guy who used to work for him who had hired me, and that first shop had closed. But he hired me, and I worked there for 4+ years.
Yeah.
And that was it, man. Like, once I started there, the shit we did, like, it was amazing. Curved staircases in the shop, you know.
Yeah.
Giant carved columns.
So what kind of template do they do for a curved staircase?
You don't do a template. You build an, you know, whatever your end wall is, like where you want to end up height-wise. And we had a deck that we built on the floor, and you plot it out on the ground, and he didn't believe in lasers or anything like that.
Right.
We would get a 10-foot A-frame ladder out, and we'd plumb bob our stud points and lay it out that way. I have pictures here on the iPad. I could show you what a skeleton of a floating curved staircase looks like.
Yeah.
But it's actually a lot of little pieces.
Yeah.
Not,
I'm sure it is.
Not big pieces. The big pieces are the laminations you do on the outside.
Yeah.
But
and then you laminate the handrail, of course.
yeah, because it was a point of contention with our boss at Acorn, where for the longest time the guy, like, we would get paired up for big jobs.
Yeah.
And the guy Jason and I, that we worked together a lot, we were like, we keep doing these curved stairs. He's like, you gotta make part of the bid that we make the wall.
Yeah.
Let us make the wall. Let us make the top and bottom plate, lay out the wall for the framers, because then we know that what we make.
You know that it's all ready to go.
Yeah.
You don't have to do on-the-fly adjustments in the field.
Well, I can't tell you how many times we've built from plans and we get out there.
It's so annoying.
Yeah, and then you're 3 inches off at the
Even
bottom.
with simple built-ins, when you're running a business and trying to make money and you show up and their shit is, and you take their word for it and don't go out and measure the finished shit yourself and make them wait that, you know, because everybody wants to crunch it. So they want to give you the numbers, say, make this to fit this. And you're like, okay, I make this to fit this, then it doesn't work. Then they expect you to try to fix it and keep it in their price range. It's like, look, man, you fucked up.
Yeah.
You gave me information and I made this to those specs. I'm not eating that shit. But everybody wants you to.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
And if you're a small-time guy, you're so terrified of losing future jobs.
So you kiss their ass so that you can keep it. And then you take a hit and then you end up working 4 days for free.
No, dude, I did that in Terre Haute.
Happens all the fucking time.
Weeks. And yeah, that was actually why I quit working for myself.
That, you know, and that's why communism won't work. You know, because the workers do not really want to own the means of production, because that means they have to take part in the losses too. We don't make any money this month. Well, you know what? Sorry, you're not getting that fucking TV you wanted.
Well, that's what I was trying to say earlier. Is if people have a vested interest in seeing things do better, they're more apt to exercise that interest.
Well, maybe.
Is the glass half full or half empty with humanity?
It depends. I don't know. I think that it's half crazy.
I think that's true. That's absolutely true.
I don't know which half is the crazy half, the full half or the empty half. And I'm not sure which half is crazy either. So, that being said,
I don't. I mean,
There's a reason that I fly a black flag, sir. That's all that I'm gonna say.
I do. I love listening to your anarchist comments because it sounds to me, and I'm gonna place you in a box. And
Yeah, you probably will. Everybody does.
Forgive me for this, but I see that as a very optimal view of humanity.
I think that it's a centrist position because here's why I think that. Because you have your right and you have your left. And if you hear, so I'm going to do a definition here. Michael Malice uses it. You ask somebody a simple question. If the answer is yes or no, or if the answer is yeah or no, then they're right wing. If the answer is a diatribe, they're left wing. And is every person equal?
No.
There you go. You're right wing. That's just our test. Okay, so you're right wing, left wing. So you have people who have those views. Some people think yes, everybody's equal, but you have to explain why they're all equal.
Define equality.
Right, and that's the point. It's ambiguous. Right, it's ambiguous, and we all know that. That's why no is the only correct answer. But whatever. But anyways, we should be working towards the point where we don't need a government. Or governments, where we just work together on a smaller scale, and then the people who work together on a smaller scale find a way to cooperate with other people who work on a smaller scale to work on bigger projects and do this and that. There's ways to work around it, and ways we'll figure it out. I don't know, and I mean, that's why I'm not really like a capitalist. Like, I'm not a purist capitalist. I'm not really a communist. I mean, I would be fine with a communist on a small scale, but I don't want a nation state to be run like that with the power of violence to back it. But
that means, if I'm putting words in your mouth, I apologize. But if that means that you hold to that there is such a thing, whether you can define it or not, as a moral center, and if people if people came to that moral center, then they'd be more apt and willing to help their fellow man, to help their community, to help the physical location where they live, or be responsible with the resources with which we've been born into, this round ball floating out in space. But these are all very optimal views of humanity.
Well, that's the whole thing. I think I know it's not like something that's I think anarchy comes through evolution, not through a revolution.
So I heard you say that, and I like that.
So I think it's through us, and that's the thing. Like where we're at now, we haven't, and my brother and I talked about this too. Like you have we haven't evolved to the point where we're used to having excess, like in the United States. And that you have a problem with people who are addicted to porn, they're addicted to food, they're addicted to drugs, cigarettes, shopping, what the fuck ever it is. But it's just like we have this, we like feel like there's always going to be a famine or whatever it is. So we're always feeding that. So that's like a kink we got to work out. Addictions is one of those things. We got to evolve past that point. The need to force our views onto other people like that. Like I think that it's good urges, like the urge to be kind to everybody and accept people and treat them all good. That's all good. That's all, we should do that. But we shouldn't say at the same time disparage like family value, like people who want to have a family and raise their kids and who enjoy spending time with people they love, and that's really what matters to them. You shouldn't disparage that because that's valuable too. But treating people, being kind to people is fucking valuable anyways, regardless of where they're from or whatever.
And highly undervalued.
Very much so. And I think that's what, but yeah, that's where I'm coming from. I don't care. I'm not right wing, left wing. I don't feel that way about it at all. I just, I'm not a communist anarchist. I'm not a whatever. I'm just kind of a individualist type anarchist who's also a mutualist type of guy, I guess. I don't know.
No, I like the term mutualist though, because I think that more aptly describes what you're saying, only or in part because the term anarchy gets such a bad rap. Like the European, the European version of anarchy is vastly different than the, quote, intellectual version of anarchy, or like the late 80s, early 90s representation of anarchy in the mass media in the United States. These, gothy teenagers running around just wanting to burn the world down.
But I mean, and that's the thing is that's like, that's a very small portion of the anarchist community.
No, it is, and it's.
But it's the same with anything, like we said. Like the alt-right or the right is being defined by that somehow they always dredge up the worst pieces of shit and try to use that to cornhole the whole side. And it's the same on the left. We do that. They do the same shit, and it's just kind of like, well, most of the people I meet aren't like total assholes, so I don't know what to think here.
No, most people that I meet are not total assholes.
Right.
Most people are, to some degree, selfish or self-centered.
Yeah.
Narcissistic, you could say.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. I think that's a predominantly American value. I think it's kind of ingrained. It's part of our social education, I believe, to kind of, I think it helps, I think it's all part of it.
Well, and honestly, that is why we've, like, my wife and I have chosen to send our kids to schools that are not public schools, but that do represent a wide variety of economy, culture, race.
Yeah.
But that will teach critical thinking.
Yeah.
That will stress, think about the why.
Yeah.
And if anything is lacking, I mean, you want to talk right and left conversations, but it's all just blurby, headlining, out of context bullshit.
Well, it's all clickbait. You click on something and it'll say, this happened, and then when you click on it and read the story, it's literally the fucking opposite of that. Like, I read something that said that somebody passed a ban on ethnic haircuts or something one day, right? So then I go and click on the article, and it literally says that they voted to make bans on haircuts illegal at schools or at works or whatever. So it's like people are sharing this who are mad about the headline, but when you open it, the headline's the total opposite or the story's the total opposite of the fucking truth. Or the headline's the opposite of the truth. So it's like, what the fuck, dude? But that's how we're driven. Like, everybody, they don't have a second to stop and, 20 seconds to stop and read it, but they got 8 seconds to see it, get outraged, and share it.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, it's honestly, I'm on Instagram and Facebook, but I post very little, and I do Instagram just to gush at what other woodworkers who are better.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I originally got on there, is the woodworking, and I got hooked by cars, and then I follow a lot of bow builders too now, and hunters and shit.
My gosh,
and so there's so much pretty shit, and so just people who are fortunate enough to travel to places and take beautiful photographs of stuff I've never seen, that I want to see.
Well, there's a bunch of artists too that I follow, but
I think Instagram's awesome because I just like the picture. I don't get drawn into anything. I just see the pictures, either like it or don't like it, and move on. I don't like.
Oh, it's got, for me to like.
I usually
something,
don't even read their stuff.
For me to like something, it's gotta strike me.
Yeah.
And but Facebook, man, it just.
That's a cesspool.
It is.
It's a cesspool.
And I'm really. I'm one step away from deleting it.
I'm watching Hispanic friends and people who they've known for years who are white arguing over the wall and shit, and I'm like, God damn it, man, get over, God.
I mean, are we going back to city states?
Well, it's the shit we had. We just talked about it last night by last night. By the time you hear this, you will have heard an episode of Literally the News, and this is probably a few days after that. We were talking about the same shit though, like how it's just there's not that there's not funding, it's not that there's not the resources, it's not that they don't have the manpower, it's not that they're not set up to actually do something like handle immigration with the paperwork and everything that it would take. It's that there's not the political will. It feels like everybody's kind of using it. It's playing to everybody's advantage to use this as a stunt now.
As leverage.
Yeah, or just to keep us distracted from other bullshit, whatever it is.
Well, you mentioned resources and funding, and I do believe that the street level workers, the processors, the case workers, that they are understaffed, underfunded, undertrained. Yeah. And the facilities were built to house literally groups of men coming over to work 20, 10, 20
Yeah, yeah.
years ago. Not whole families or droves of women and children.
Well, yeah, they're just, it's fucking, the whole thing's bullshit. Like, it's just really frustrating because we spend a lot of money on hurting people and funding other countries that hurt people and selling arms to totalitarian regimes overseas, totalitarian theocratic regimes that still execute homosexuals, and we sell them arms, but we can't look into helping out people who are trying to escape someplace that's a shithole because of our drug war that's created that's made the drug cartels stronger than the government in Mexico and other Central American countries. I mean, we really, like, the United States government's created a problem, and now we're reaping and nobody wants to solve it. And I don't think the government should exist, but it's like, man, you guys got to at least be utilitarian at some point and be like, hey, we got to plug a hole somewhere. Stop creating more problems for ourselves somewhere. Right?
Yeah, but where do you plug that hole? Like, wait,
stop bombing people? Start there? That's pretty popular. I bet you could get a lot of people behind not dropping bombs all the time. But, Trump's attitude is, well, we already built the bombs. We might as well drop them.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, sometimes I buy some beer and I leave it out for fucking 3 months and forget about it, and it gets hot, and I just throw it away, man. I don't drink the beer.
Yeah, just because you bought it
doesn't mean you got to drink that shit. Yeah. Fuck.
And you're really drunk. And
you buy a pizza and you eat half of it one night and it gives you the shits. Are you going to eat the other half the next day, or are you going to throw the pizza away?
I would probably eat the other half.
Yeah, see, well, then you're perfect for the United States government.
Oh, no.
I'll throw it away. I don't care. Fuck that pizza.
No, I remember the day that I had to go to a government office and get fingerprinted and put in the FBI system before I started for DCFS.
Uh-huh.
And I look back on that and I'm like, there's just some part of me that just wishes Big Brother didn't have that.
Hey, yeah. On that note, let's take a look.
Knife in my back, slap in the face, good left side.
Is that the last?
See it in your eyes. Now, every time I say hello, I think of that song for whatever reason. So, we're back. Fucking Justin doesn't want the government to have his fingerprints. We've recorded, this is the third time. We've had 10 minutes of conversation, then 15 minutes, and lost it. And now we're back, and hopefully we can continue to have a conversation. So, okay, we can move on from that, whatever. So woodworking, what got you, what kind of woodworking do you do these days?
I do predominantly historical architectural woodwork.
That sounds like fun.
I love it.
Yeah, it is pretty cool to do that shit, right? You're matching old moldings and... matching or, restoring old wood doors. Someone will come to me with a picture. Like that was a lot of what it was. They'd come to me with the picture. They'd have this old door, and I'd have a pretty long process I'd go through. And like, we can make you a new version. We can fix the old door and make a new jamb and hang it right so your house seals properly, or somewhere in between. So a lot of doors, and for the longest time when I worked at the shop up in Westfield, I hated making doors. Like it just seemed so linear and so unoriginal. And then I don't know. I mean, I guess I was good at it, and definitely have a passion for architecture and have a lot of old architectural texts and design texts at home, and got pretty passionate about that. Architectural details, stairs, doors, columns, trim stacks, why trim is what it is, what its purpose is, like going back to the ancient Greeks. And when I started digging that deep, like, I was like, man, this is way more interesting than trying to, come up with the next cool furniture design. And there are people that do it, and you and I know people that do it, and they do it really well. That's not me. Yeah.
And to be honest, there was a little bit of feeding myself. Like, I mean, how many guys do you know that make cabinets or furniture?
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
How many guys do you know that make windows or doors or will turn and carve, a Corinthian column?
Yeah, not many.
And that was the thing.
Yeah.
And saw it as a bit of a niche market. And there are plenty of people out there that do it better than I do, and that know more than I do. There's just not very many in indie.
Yeah.
That do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of people here that do a lot of niche things. We've got a lot of cabinet companies and a lot of carpenters and a lot of builders, but we don't have a lot of people to do, intricate metal work and woodworking, stuff like that. So
Yeah, and
tons of breweries though. A lot of good beer in Indianapolis.
cheers. Yeah, the Sun King, man. Oof.
Yeah, they make some pretty good shit.
They do.
Yeah. What's your favorite kind of beer?
Stella Artois.
Yeah. So why Stella? Is it an emotional attachment? Or?
It's not really. Like, I went through a phase a couple of years ago where I was like, I would go to the liquor store by my house and I would try something new every time.
Yeah.
And the first one I found that I really liked consistently, other than Hams, if you're at the Joinery. I'm gonna give that plug.
Yeah, Hams at the Joinery.
Hams at the Joinery.
Tastes delish.
It is delicious.
And it's terrible beer, but it tastes delicious there for some reason.
It really does.
Yeah.
But the first one I found that I really liked was Leinenkugel's Canoe Paddler, which is a seasonal beer, so they only sell it for like 3 or 4 months a year.
Yeah.
And it's a Kolsch style beer. And one of my closest friends, who was a fraternity brother in college, he worked for Budweiser and now he works for Firestone Walker, which is a huge brewery out west. Like they're in like 20 different states now.
Yeah.
And I told him, I asked him, I said, look, I can't, I want to find like a regular beer that I like. This is the closest thing. And I've tried, all these different, IPAs and IPAs just don't do it for me. I don't like a real hoppy beer. And so he recommended a few different things. One of the microbrews that I liked was Gumball Head, which is a really weird one. And it's more hoppy than I typically like, but I really like that. But it's only very rarely available in Indiana.
That's the Alpha King, though, isn't it? Gumball Head? I thought that was an Indiana brewery.
At the time, the guy who gave that to me had picked it up in Tennessee.
Let me check it out. Go ahead. Continue talking about beer.
Sorry. So,
yeah, it's Three Floyds, man. Sorry, Alpha King. Yeah, it's Three Floyds. That's an Indiana beer. You should be able to get it here.
I couldn't find it at the usual Big Red Payless.
I don't know why. I always say Alpha King because that was their big IPA that kind of got them started. And shit. Yeah.
And I remember the art on the case, which sounds goofy, but the art on the 6-pack was like phenomenal. Like,
yeah.
So I really liked that. And when I could get it, I'd buy it. But just a common everyday beer to find and keep in the fridge.
Yeah.
And he's like, have you ever tried Stella? And I tried Heineken way long ago before Anheuser-Busch bought Rolling Rock. I liked Rolling Rock when it was actually a good beer. Now it's kind of like, it's like below Hams level, like below PBR.
I haven't had a Rolling Rock in decades.
Yeah.
Probably 20 years.
Yeah.
It wasn't good then, though. I didn't like it then.
I did. Heineken was moderately tolerable. Corona was tasteless. And I was like, what? And he's like, you don't want a Pilsner. You want like a Kolsch style lager. And so he pointed me to a few different things and he suggested Stella. I picked that up and it was like, I don't know, all the right conditions, I guess. It was just delicious. And that was it. And I was like, well, that's my freaking beer.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's just a weird one to be your favorite. I guess.
It's so on the east side where I live.
It's like
there are a lot more liquor stores per capita, we'll say, than on the north side.
That's true.
And
but they don't have good selections of beer usually.
No, they've got a tremendous selection of vodka, and rums, and Hennessy on every end cap, but not a tremendous selection of beer. So there's only 2 that I know of that regularly stock Stella.
Yeah.
And they know me by face for sure now.
Yeah, no shit. That's funny. So, what's your favorite tool?
My favorite tool.
Yeah.
Like favorite tool to use or favorite that I own, like the one that I'm most proud to own?
It can be either or you can do both. Your favorite tool to use, and that's better. Do both.
My favorite tool to use, uh, I could say a lot of things that give me pride, um, but my stiletto hammers.
Yeah.
Um, do you know stiletto hammers?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I got knocked off a ladder in a bad way. Oh, before we ever moved to Indy, so like 2003, 2004, I broke my coccyx, the bones between my. Yeah, I broke my cock. No, I broke the bones that are between your tailbone and your spine,
Yeah.
and I broke my right hand and arm in 8 places.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
I bet
so
that felt good.
no, dude, I sat on a donut for 6 weeks,
Yeah.
and it's my right hand and arm. At the time, I was very right hand dominant,
Yeah.
and I couldn't play video games. I couldn't zip my zipper. I couldn't start my fucking car.
You
Like-
probably couldn't masturbate either.
Well, no, to that end, I've always been a lefty because it's always felt like somebody else is doing it. So
Yeah, well, there you go. I guess that works.
turn the left hand over, and your imagination can go wild. A Christian's going to listen to this, and I'm never going to hear the end of it.
He's not going to listen to this. Why would he do that? This is
he's-
the old man's podcast.
Dude, I told you, not only is he already listening to this, his friends brought it to his attention.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fucked up.
Yeah, you're getting some high school kid attention.
Yeah,
right
the
now.
more the merrier. Bring them on. I don't care. I like any fans I can get. That's good. It's all a positive message here.
Now, but these his crowd's your Island of Misfit Toys nerd crowd, so you're
that's
probably
cool.
okay.
Yeah, that's fine. So that's like 4 people. Right. Thanks.
Yeah.
I appreciate it anyways. No problem.
I mean, if you talked about D&D, you might get a few more of his people.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I haven't played D&D since 1993.
Oh, Jesus.
Or something. 92 maybe even. It's been a long time.
Man, it seems like every other weekend there's a group of nerds sitting around my dining table, and he's having a session, and his friends are over, and they're really a group of great kids.
Yeah.
I gotta say that.
Well, it's a game that's lasted for like 4 decades, 5 decades. You know, it's been around forever. So, and it's pretty. I mean, it is. Yeah, it's nerdy, but whatever. I mean, you're not hurting anybody.
No, and
You know,
they're having fun, and they're honestly
using your imagination and stuff. It's cool.
and they're not plugged in.
Yeah.
You know, they're not.
Yeah, you're interacting with people. You're
Yeah.
not typing. Like, you see people texting to each other while they're sitting on the couch together. Get the fuck out of here.
Right?
Really? Yeah.
So you want to talk weird?
Yeah.
Let me place it.
I want to hear about it.
Yeah. So
Give
this
me the weird, bro.
this is my house. My younger daughter is she's on her way to being an elite diver. She has competed at a national level a few times,
Yeah.
and she just turned 10. So her friends, several of which live in the neighborhood, they're all 14 to 16 years old.
Yeah.
She's 9, and so she hangs out with them. Christian's having people over on Saturdays, and so he's got his nerd D&D crowd over, and then Isabel gets home from practice with her friends that are, elite athletes.
Yeah.
And then there's this like weird mingling of crowds over pizza and
Yeah.
chips. And
That's pretty funny.
it
The nerds and the athletes meet.
so it
But swimmers always seem to be like the smart kids too, though.
Oh, they
they're not. It's not that they're not nerds, but they're like band nerds or something different, right?
but swimmers and divers are different.
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's true.
divers have a fierceness and
But they all kind of hang out together, don't they?
not really.
Yeah.
Not at Warren.
Okay.
Not and only about half of her teen kids.
How
are
many
from
divers
Warren.
do they have?
So the club's got 9 kids, but only 3 of them go to Warren, dive for Warren.
Yeah.
The rest are like Lawrence and Whiteland and Fishers that come there to dive together.
Okay.
So, and then Isabel and a couple other girls have been invited to come down to the natatorium, and they've legit been practicing with Olympians
Yeah.
there at the natatorium downtown.
That's
And
pretty cool.
it's scary as shit as a parent, but like, dude, I don't even watch anymore. Like, I can't watch her do new stuff. Like, when she gets up on a 5 meter platform and she's like 4 feet fucking tall.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, she's like, did you see that? And I'm like, well, I recorded it and I watched the recording because I'm a chicken shit and I can't actually watch you do it because I'll have a heart attack.
Yeah.
But no, it's there's a fierceness to them that I never appreciated. You know, I watch the Olympics like anybody else, but I just didn't appreciate the amount that they have to, in the micro, face down their fears and force their body to do something that is unnatural for us to want to do.
Yeah.
You know, in front of God and everybody in their fucking underpants.
Yeah.
And that, and I'm very impressed with my daughter. She like I'm not gonna say anything disparaging about it. She loves what she does and she works very, very hard at it. But it does make for a weird mix of crowds when they all like come together, and then, to their credit, they usually find common ground. Like it's weird, and some of the dive kids have been like, can I play too?
Yeah.
You know, I'll go home later. You know,
Well, we raised two good points. One is, yeah, they're out there in their underwear doing everything. And why is it that it's acceptable for them to wear their underwear to compete, but it's not acceptable for me to wear my underwear to the mall?
it's funny that you mentioned that.
That's what I want to know.
So, but I think the fact is, if it didn't say Hanes on it, but you wear a pair of cut off jean shorts and you have the right kind of progressively socially acceptable flair, you could get away with it. Now, if you wear a dirty, you know,
Like jizz stained whitey
tighties,
yeah,
and a beer stained white wife beater,
you might get some pushback.
yeah, you're going to get some pushback there.
But if it says Calvin Klein and it's clean,
yeah, if it says
I can
Calvin,
probably get away with it.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah. So that, and then the other point being that, like, the way the kids come together, like you were saying there, is I've noticed that, like, I went to a small Catholic school and there were a lot of cliques and shit. But my kids go to a much larger school, and all the kids seem to get along a lot better. The kids, like, I keep hearing everybody say everything's getting worse, but I actually see, for the most part, most kids are actually getting better, and they were just more aware of the worst shit because of social media and all of that stuff.
I think that's true. We're more aware, but to the end about your girls, your girls are both good students, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay, and that's what I've noticed. So we left our oldest. We let him choose where he went to high school. We lived in North Central School District, but he wanted to go to Heron High School for the arts focus, and so we toured them both, and we made him really exposit on what is it you want out of high school? Where do you want to go with this? And he felt like Heron was going to be more like what he was familiar with. But what we noticed as parents was, if you have a competent or above average student, they're going to be placed in a certain type of class. And those students, regardless of the high school, it's more of a small school setting. Like, they don't interact with, to use the prison term, the general population,
Right.
as much as
It's just
normal
like,
student.
Well, it's like when they choose music classes. The kids who do music classes tend to, kind of be more on top of their academics and pay more attention.
Be more dedicated to whatever it is they're doing.
But I mean, yeah, music. I mean, it's been shown in studies that it like kind of opens up a different part, like it enables you to learn things in a different way, and helps with retention with math and shit like that. So, there's definitely a correlation between and it's just like speaking multiple languages. And, I mean, a lot of these things, when you start at a young age with these skills, it helps to build. Oh, sorry about that. Helps to build more skills later on. Easier.
And that was honestly one of the reasons we chose the grade school for all the kids that we did. They all started learning Latin in 3rd grade.
Yeah.
And I mean, Christian has now had 8 years of Latin.
Yeah.
And not that that's particularly functional, but the effect that it can have on critical thinking, on problem solving. It really is tremendous, and his ability to read, and he's a great reader. Like the kid reads everything, and he always has.
Yeah.
So,
That's what he grew up addicted to books.
I did. He did. I did.
Yeah.
So
I was addicted. I had my youngest sister is 10 years older than me, and then she's 12 years older than my brother. And so we had three older sisters who taught us, who, they were interested in reading and stuff. They're all, our whole family's bright people. People are just real curious about stuff and want to learn more. And so they all push themselves. I've always had trouble identifying with the victim mentality with stuff because, I've been surrounded by strong women my whole life who just made shit happen. So including my wife, it's just hard to, it's like, if they can do it against all odds and make it in supposed men's professions, I don't understand the problem. And I mean, to a degree,
I mean, I think I know I've seen my wife get pushed back and get career held back because she's still a childbearing woman. But I also know that there are prominent billboard present attorneys in town that will settle a case, go out of their way to settle a case rather than sit across the table in a deposition or mediation with my wife.
Yeah.
They'll just be like, no.
Yeah.
And we're going to settle for less because they're not going to sit across the table
Yeah.
from her. And to be honest, you can call me all the bad names you want, that I'm a sissy, that I'm whooped, whatever. There's no one on the planet that I will avoid sitting across the table from than my wife.
Yeah, you don't want to negotiate with her.
No, because it's not negotiation. It's an
ass whooping, right?
So Christian found this comedian that talked about spouses and how which one are you in the relationship? Are you the smart one or are you the clever one?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know what the answer to this is. Like, I know I'm the smart one. I can read a technical manual. I can pick up a college math book and learn, probability and statistics. But am I the clever one? No. Can I think on my feet? Can I write, a 2-sentence cutting email that will negotiate a settlement on a case like that? No, I can't do that.
Yeah.
That's her. But she makes twice what I do.
Yeah, I can't do any of that shit.
So
I can barely tie my own shoes.
According to Zach, I tie my shoes wrong.
Everybody does. We all tie. It's a natural predisposition to tying your shoes incorrectly. Whatever way you're crossing your shoelaces over now, flip it, because I promise you're doing it incorrectly. You'll thank me later. They will not come untied during the day.
It's very unpopular to say, but Bill Cosby in a Jell-O commercial taught me how to tie my shoes when I was 5.
You know what's unpopular to say?
What's that?
That Bill Cosby was in a Jell-O commercial. No, that's not unpopular. I like Bill Cosby.
I like
he could
the
rape
Cosby
me
Show.
if he wanted to.
I don't know that I could go there with Bill Cosby.
If he paid me enough, I would let him.
Mads Mikkelsen? Mads Mikkelsen could rape me.
Who's that?
You don't know who Mads Mikkelsen is?
No.
Did you ever see Daniel Craig's Casino Royale, the Bond movie?
Yeah.
Years
ago.
He was the arms dealer, the guy with the bleeding eyeball.
Oh yeah, totally.
He's been in some crazy, trippy Norwegian, Scandinavian, like Viking movies. He's a pretty fierce specimen of man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds nice.
You're probably not a Shia LaBeouf fan, like movies wise.
Well, it depends on what movie.
Did you see The Necessary Death of Charlie Countryman?
No, I never even heard of that.
It's a real indie movie. It's got, do you know who Evan Rachel Wood is?
No.
Jesus Christ. Did you ever see Across the Universe? It's a...
No.
Oh, gosh, damn it. All right. Did you see Westworld on HBO?
No. Who is it?
Evan Rachel Wood.
Evan Rachel Wood, huh? Let's check this shit out. Let's see what's going on. Evan Rachel. Is it a dude or a chick?
It's a chick. I'm going to get filleted for saying that because my wife's going to listen to this now that I've been on your podcast.
And you said chick?
Yeah, I said chick, so I'm going to get...
Why are you going to get filleted for that?
Yeah,
Oh, she's hot. Nice. 8 out of 10 would do. Go ahead.
Okay. So Shia LaBeouf's in a movie with her.
Yeah.
Mads
Does he
Mik-
kiss her?
I'm pretty sure they get it on. I'm pretty sure like goes out of his way to perform oral service, but it was edited out of the movie, and she got fired from that production company after the movie was released because it got edited out of the movie, and she's like, "Y'all are a bunch of sissies because you can't have a woman getting sexual pleasure in a movie. Only a guy can do that."
Yeah.
And so that's what caught my wife's attention about her. I looked her up. I saw this movie with Shia LaBeouf, and when he's not crazy and drunk, he actually makes good movies. Like Lawless is one of my favorite
That's
movies.
a really good movie.
Yeah.
But Tom Hardy,
Yeah.
he could do whatever he wanted to me. I like Tom Hardy.
So, all right, we're talking about Tom Hardy and Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah. Didn't they get in a fight on that set?
They did get in a fight on that set.
I bet they had hot sex later to make up for it.
So the joke was, there's no way that Shia LaBeouf kicked Tom Hardy's ass.
Right.
I didn't know this, but until Tom Hardy filmed Warrior, he'd hit the gym, but he never had any fight training of any kind.
Yeah, I'd have assumed he hadn't.
Shia LaBeouf, on and off since he was on Even Stevens, had trained at a Machado Jiu-Jitsu school.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, so he's kind of a little badass weirdo?
Apparently he's got a brown belt.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
he'd kick my ass, probably.
I
mean, if I didn't knock him out with the head kick first.
Dude, that is one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. I did not know you had a pro or semi-pro MMA career.
Yeah, semi-professional, yeah. Semi-professional.
That's badass.
I worked full-time. I mean, it's hard because I started when I was married to my ex-wife. And so I had, some help or whatever. And did okay, and then got a big injury and never really bounced back from it. And then kind of had a few fights after that marriage was over. But it was always, working a full-time job and a part-time job and training and trying to fight, and it was rough.
Yeah.
So, I had you'll like on Sharedog, you'll find my record's terrible, but I fought a lot of fights before we had sanctioning in Indiana, so a lot of them there's no record of them or whatever. But
are there any videos on YouTube or anything of them?
Yeah, there's videos on YouTube of me getting my ass kicked. There's me beating a few guys who aren't like my best fights. Never they're not on YouTube. Because I don't know. One of my best fights, I fought a dude who ended up fighting to try to get on the Ultimate Fighter, but didn't make it. But he was undefeated, and they called me at 4 that afternoon, and I was smoking a bowl and eating Taco Bell and drinking a Mountain Dew, and they're like, "You want to fight for $600?" And I was like, "Sure, who is it?" And they told me who it was. I was like, "Yeah, whatever. I mean, he ain't lost yet. Maybe I'll hand him his first loss." And that's the first time I landed a head kick in a fight. And so I landed the head kick, and then I look back at my corner, and I'm like, "Do you guys see that shit?" And he's on the ground scrambling. We're like, "Get him!" And we ended up scrambling back and forth. And he's I'm pretty sure he was a black belt at the time, jiu-jitsu. And he took me down several times, and I kept getting up, and he was getting really frustrated because when we'd stand back up, he couldn't do anything to me standing up because
if you're in the same weight class, you probably got reach on him by 6 inches.
Yeah, well, that was 170 pounds too. So he was.
You cut to 170 pounds.
Yeah, but I did better at 185. I should have stayed at middleweight. But one of my big mistakes was trying to fight at 170 for several years, and it was hard to get that weight off and keep it off and shit.
Yeah, you just don't have the height to cut that.
And I fought too much, because I had 27 fights over a 6-year period, but but 5 of them were in 3 years. So
wow,
yeah, the
that's
last 5 were
fighting every
out.
month or 6 weeks.
Yeah, the last 5 fights were spread out over 3 years. Yeah, I fought every month for a while and shit. I fought weekends back to back a couple of times.
Wow,
Yeah, it was crazy. It was fun, but I wasn't very good. Like I said, my official record total amateur and pro, which is semi-pro. I mean, I never made it to a big venue. It was 11-16. So, I mean, whatever. I had a couple of real good fights in me and lost a couple and kind of got set up on a few where I traveled and was kind of set up where the minute the advantage went to the other guy, they stopped the fight. Because I was a pretty tough dude. I mean, you could stomp the shit out of me. I'd keep fighting you. I don't give a shit. But But the pros, when it's amateur fights and shit, the refs, they don't want you to, they don't want to let you get hurt because of your pride and then have to feel guilty because you can't work to take care of your family and shit. So
Yeah,
that's a big part of it. So I mean, it's not a disparaging to the refs either, but it's
sorry.
I mean, you're at that lower level, like they don't let fights go on sometimes as long as they would. Like if you'd see a UFC fight where a guy would survive a barrage of punches, because you can see some of these guys and know they don't have the cardio to do that. And so when they're going nuts on you, you're just kind of protecting yourself and waiting for an opening because he can't do that for long. And then when he's done, I'm gonna fucking murder him, But
I didn't know this until recently, but there are most refs have a series of signals that are before the fight goes on.
Yeah.
That they're like, you have to acknowledge, like, even if you're on, if you're under guard or protecting your head for 10 or 12 seconds at a time, as long as I hear from you,
yeah,
you're still good to go.
Well, they're a lot better about it now, but I mean, that was I started in 2006, and my last fight was 2012. And my last fight, I mean, by the last couple of years when it was sanctioned here and stuff, my last couple of fights, it was all well organized, and you had the meeting, the referees knew their fucking job. A lot of these other venues, it wasn't really like that. Before. So, I mean, but that's how it is. I mean, it's a lot better now. My last fight, I lost fair and square in 19 seconds. Wow. It was a short guy. I underestimated him. I was only training like 14 hours a week in a gym, for like a month or so before the fight, cut to 170. Got cocky, threw a fucking body kick. He took me down. I let him mount me. Because same deal, being cocky. I was like, this guy can't submit me. He's too short, being stupid, basically. And I let him mount me because I got a real sweet sweep from the mount. And I went to sweep him, and he grabbed my arm and about yanked it off. And the ref stopped the fight. It was like before, because my elbow was about to hyperextend. Like, I couldn't even tap to happen so fast. It was pretty impressive. I watched the tape and was like, damn, I can't believe he pulled that off. But that was my last fight, and I had to be done with it. I knew then, like, I fought for so long because I felt like I was like chasing a demon away or some shit, like I just like was scared of life or something.
Did you spend more time chasing that demon, or did you spend more time learning how to be a good? Because there's a difference between being a good fighter and being a good MMA fighter.
Yeah, well, and it was mostly just the whole thing was chasing that demon. It wasn't about, like, I was a wrestler and I wrestled, like, that's been my life. Like, I wrestled from the time I was 8 years old all the way through high school. Did, the other, AA wrestling and all that shit. Amateur
AAU. Yeah.
AAU wrestling and all that shit. So, I mean, I've wrestled. I mean, that's part of, that's part of who I am. But the whole MMA thing was just kind of about, I mean, it was fucked up. I had, me and my ex-wife's doing great now. We have a good relationship, whatever. We weren't right for each other. I don't know what was wrong with me at that time. I think it was mostly, whatever, kind of not ready to have had kids when I did, and dealing with a bunch of other shit, whatever.
Being broke.
Yeah, but I was fat after the ex-wife had the last kid. I got fat and lazy and decided, talk to a guy who needed help teaching guys to grapple for the cage. I came in to teach him because, tons of wrestling experience. So I went in there to work with those guys and ended up fighting. So, and then had 27 fucking fights over a 6-year period. It was a wild fucking ride, man.
Yeah.
It was a bunch of good times, a bunch of bad times, fought friends, lost a bunch of fights that I, would have liked to have had back. Got beat by the same guy twice and wanted to fight him again, but never did. But, whatever.
But
enough about me. We're here to talk about you anyway, so.
No, I just, there's tremendous respect. You have better odds at becoming a Major League Baseball player.
Yeah,
than getting even to where you got.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, it's pretty easy to get where I got. But
the last, and this was from 2015, the last numbers that I read then was that over the course of its sanctioned life, like since, what is it, Cell Entertainment or whatever, bought UFC from the Gracies.
Yeah.
So that whatever that was, like 1997.
I don't even remember when that was. But
Yeah, so like 1997, 1998.
it's Zulu Entertainment.
Zulu or
Zulu something.
I don't remember what it is. There have been, quote, 27,000 professional MMA fighters.
How many?
There had been 27,000 guys who had fought. No, I'm sorry. I have that wrong. It's the other way around. If you add up all the guys that are either drafted collegiate players through all the minor leagues and all the Major League Baseball, that's 27,000 people. And less people than that have fought an MMA fight.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was way more than that because a lot of fucking crazy fucks did it.
No, there's a lot of tough man amateur competition people, people who come out for one fight, but have fought a professional, a non-amateur MMA
I've
fight.
only fought, I think, only 2 sanctioned professional fights in Indiana. I fought in a couple in Ohio. Too.
There's a lot more in Ohio,
but most of my fights were before the sanctioning. I think the sanctioning probably started in 2010 here or something, and so most of my fights took place before that.
There's not much in Indiana still. Like if you want anything, you either got to go Michigan, and the reason Michigan is because there's a lot of bleed over from Toronto.
Yeah,
and Toronto's a mecca, but Iowa's a fucking huge mecca to produce fighters.
Yeah, well, they've always been big wrestlers. A bunch of corn-fed motherfuckers out there wrestling cows.
And that's the Hawkeyes are the only thing that entire state has.
Yeah.
Like the only thing they have to watch, athletically speaking, is the Hawkeyes. Like they follow.
They don't even have a basketball team, do they? Maybe minor league. Do they have a minor league hockey team?
They've got a few minor league hockey teams. They've got a couple like AA baseball teams, but there is no professional sport in Iowa. Like you could say a AA baseball team is professional sport because nobody's on a AA team without a major league contract.
Yeah.
But no, it's badass. I'm just saying it's badass that you fought. Like I was late to the game of appreciating MMA, or I would have dropped out of school. And
so did you see that fucking Jorge Masvidal
yes, I did.
Ben Askren?
Honestly, I really thought Askren would have learned something from Robbie Lawler's fight, because like that fight was called too soon with Lawler.
Yeah.
I think that Askren, once they got to the ground, I think Lawler was going to be fucked.
Yeah.
Askren was going to win that. But it's like he didn't learn anything. And I watched Jorge's episode with Joe Rogan, and was like, man, this dude, I mean, he's a cocky dude. You can't be a UFC fighter and not have a degree of cocky to you. But he really hates this guy.
Yeah.
Like, he genuinely hates this guy. And I'm like, Askren better back it up. And I like Ben Askren.
Yeah.
I like a lot of what he has to teach. But he just came out like he was going to do the same old thing. Like he hasn't grown or developed as a fighter at all, and just like, I'm gonna do the double leg takedown.
Yeah.
And
why would you think that you could just come out and double leg takedown Masvidal right off the bat?
And Masvidal saw it coming. The moment the bell rang, he knew exactly what his opening game plan was. He knew, like there was no hesitation. He was going for the flying knee.
Yeah, that was so set up, dude. Oh man!
Do you think you don't think it was rigged? Do you?
No, I'm just saying. Like Askren just played right into his game plan.
He did. Yeah. He did. I mean, he semi owned it. He said it sucked, but now I want to see Askren have to climb the ladder.
Yeah, he needs to fucking whatever.
Yeah,
he's not. Yeah, I mean, being good in Bellator or Strikeforce or F1.
It was one.
Whatever it is, that's one thing. But getting to UFC is usually, especially that weight class, that's a different level of fighting.
Cause what's Askren fighting? Is that light?
He's won 85, right? It's middleweight, right?
Middleweight. So he's not even welterweight.
No, I'm pretty sure it's middleweight.
because the fight, and the fight that I wanted to see, the fight I always wanted to see, was Khabib and GSP.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
That's
I don't
not gonna
think
happen.
GFC's too old.
Well,
He's
no,
not losing it.
GSP's got a very serious health issue, and
Yeah.
he came back, and he came back huge, and beat Bisping, but like his body is failing him.
Yeah, I think. He's not doing great. Who's next for Khabib? Who do he fight next? Who's it gonna be?
Oh, I just saw this the other day of who he was either slated to fight or the talks were that it might happen.
I think it should be Ferguson.
I would love to see that.
I think Ferguson has earned it. He's beat everybody. He's
And
he's
he's my new guy for like the reason I like GSP the most. When I first started watching, this is probably 2 or 3 years ago, was that he was the most dynamic fighter. He could bring it to the ground. He could get old school karate on you. He could box with you. He was just a gritty beast.
Yeah.
And I like to see that sort of dynamic, that the whole purpose of the MMA, the mixed martial arts, bring all those tools to the table. And I loved watching GSP fight. And even people I know that hate GSP can't argue with the fact that he was a very dynamic fighter.
No, he was. I mean, like when he got beat by Matt Hughes and then came back and out wrestled Matt Hughes the next time.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck, dude? Yeah. Matt Hughes spent an entire lifetime learning how to wrestle, and this guy, in the manner
choked him
in
out.
Less than a year, learns how to fucking out wrestle him.
And so for GSP to eat his pride and go to, after the loss to BJ Penn, he went to Danaher and said, "I need a better ground game."
Yeah.
And that's going to the fucking Dalai Lama of ground games. And I'm like, all right, like that's serious. And I'd spent a year at that point watching Danaher's Death Squad and their sub only competitions.
Yeah.
And it's like you just don't until you get into it. I know I didn't appreciate the science behind the chess game that is the ground game.
Yeah.
I lost weeks of evenings. The kids go to bed, and I'm sitting out in the garage drinking beer, smoking cigarettes, watching Danaher break down all these, these sub-only competitions. It was fascinating. But Tony Ferguson, he takes a very different tack. I mean, he's got some really. I mean, he still practices Wing Chun. Yeah. Nobody practices Wing Chun. So he's pretty exciting to watch.
Yeah, and he's got cardio to go forever.
I mean, like the Diaz brothers back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. He'll drag you into I think he could go 5 rounds, no problem.
And Carlos Condit was another one that used to be like that. He'd just go all day long.
And you can't. How do you fight that? Good luck. But yeah, I think Ferguson could beat Khabib, but I'd still be a good fight. I want to see that one.
I want to see it too.
That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about the John Jones fight? What do you think about that?
See, I didn't watch it. John Jones, he's sort of like, he's athletic like Anderson Silva, but more cocksure in a way that, like Anderson Silva, like, at first I wasn't a fan, and then I began to appreciate the athleticism. And then I didn't like the showboatness you'd see in the ring. Yeah. And then he had to eat it that one time.
That was awesome.
Yeah. And now he's old as fuck.
Yeah.
But he still trains, and he acknowledges, like, this is just showboating. Like, he doesn't actually treat people that way. So there's a human side to him, but he's still a very dynamic fighter. I don't know. I guess all right, brutal honesty. I don't feel like I don't feel like Jones is clean, and I just can't get behind him.
Oh yeah. Well, there's a lot of speculation around all of that, but I don't know. The testing now has become so sensitive that and then so many tainted supplements. They need to get that under control. The tainted supplement shit. Like they need to find supplements that are acceptable and be like, these are the only ones you can use. If you use something else and you fail a drug test, fuck you. We don't
But
care.
it can't
You know?
be this is the only thing to use, because then that indicates it's too easy to indicate a brand. You have this chemical compound is acceptable.
Right.
This chemical
Well, the thing
compound.
is, though, is like they're saying, is a big part of the problem is that the drugs that are manufactured at some, or the supplements that are manufactured at some plants have other shit manufactured in that plant. Sometimes the equipment doesn't get cleaned out, then a batch gets tainted. So
Okay.
it's not, it needs to be brands, but it doesn't have to be one brand. It can be, because it's usually several brands are made at the same place.
Yeah.
But they need to figure out a way. I mean, it doesn't have to be one brand, but lists of brands that they know are trusted that, clean out their shit or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's just, it went from one extreme where it was a Wild West. They weren't fucking testing it at all, and you didn't know what anybody was on, to now we're getting this picogram shit, and we don't know. Like guys are.
Could you have had
over
tainted meat that you got that from?
whatever? Yeah, I don't know. Fucking know, man. And I don't know the fucking science, but I've heard the guys talk about it, and it sounds pretty convincing. When even the guys at USADA are saying maybe it's getting sensitive enough that we need to consider dialing it back on certain things or setting the limits a little higher, because you could get exposure. Like they're saying that this test gets so close now that if somebody had some tainted creatine, opened the can in the room with you and you breathed it in, it could show up on the test.
Damn, I didn't know that.
So, that's one of those things. It's like, yeah, I feel that way about almost anybody who cheats, but at the same time, I think they should just all openly cheat. I think they should all be on drugs openly, because that's what I want to. I mean, it's just like the baseball players. I came to see somebody smash a ball. I don't fucking care if he's on hoo-haws.
Really?
Yeah, I don't give a shit.
See, and I was never a tremendous offensive player.
Yeah.
I want to see chess on grass. I want to see the pitcher's duel. I want to see tremendous fielding. I don't want to see.
I like all that shit too, but once in a while, I just want to see somebody smash the fuck out of a ball like a caveman.
Well, and every now and then you will see it.
Yeah.
But just not,
When it happens 50 times a year, I'm okay with that too. I don't care. Shit, whatever.
I saw McGuire hit number 60
Yeah.
in '98, but I don't know. I mean, you could tell though that like back then that dude was jacked.
Yeah, well, obviously he was on some shit. That's cool with me. I don't give a fuck. Jose Canseco, you're cool too. And while you're at it, let fucking Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. I don't care if you gamble on baseball.
He's paid his price.
I don't care if you gamble on your own fucking team and then you throw it. I don't care. You're Pete Rose, man. He's Pete Rose.
4,000 hits, man.
What the fuck? Get out of here. Yeah, he's awesome.
The last managing player.
The big red machine.
No, I don't know. Like I never particularly liked John Jones. I never felt like he was. I mean, he is obviously a fantastic specimen of man.
A fantastic specimen of a man. Yes, he is.
He's a fantastic fighter. He's just not that dynamic. He's not exciting, and that's a subjective entertainment value.
Yeah,
he's
I
not
disagree. I like him.
I just didn't find him exciting.
I think
to
he's the greatest. I like watching him fight.
I would rather watch Amanda Nunes.
But I heard the last fight was boring, and I did hear that Amanda Nunes, speaking of, badass, dude.
She is fucking fierce.
Yeah.
She is
taking him out. She don't give up back.
I mean, she made Holly Holm look like Holly Holm made Ronda Rousey look.
Yeah, I wouldn't fight with Amanda Nunes.
No. Like, no, here's my wallet.
I just want to be cool.
Here's my lefticle. Like, we're done.
What do you need?
That's right.
Jesus Christ. That was one bad girl. Shit. Fucking A, so who's your favorite fighter then?
My favorite fighter right now?
Yeah.
My favorite fighter of all time is definitely GSP.
Yeah, do you watch boxing too?
I have now. I used to hate boxing. I thought it was the most one-dimensional. I thought it was boring.
The sweet science, man. It's exciting.
It is science. And then I started watching, because of watching MMA shit on YouTube, some of Tyson's fights, and then some of Manny's fights started to come up on my feed. So I started watching them. Yeah. And I still don't like Floyd Mayweather. Not just because he's a dirtbag of a human being. And he is like old gum on the bottom of your shoe version of a human being. But he's why I don't like John Jones. Yeah. He's a defensive. He's boring. Like, and I appreciate the science behind it.
Yeah.
But and he counters the idea no risk, no reward. But I mean, he's obviously a tremendous athlete and a very good boxer. But
Andy Ruiz, though, he took a risk and he won a reward. He took that belt from Joshua. Remember that? Did you see that a while? Oh shit, yeah. He fucking knocked out Anthony Joshua.
He did.
Yeah.
I saw the gimmick match that he'd fought in Japan.
Yeah, no, he ended up. Andy Ruiz ended up knocking out Anthony Joshua. It was pretty awesome. In the 7th round, I believe. In round 3, Joshua knocked him down twice, and then he knocked Joshua down once, I believe. Then came back, knocked Joshua down twice in the 7th round, and it was over.
That sounds like an '80s style boxing fight. That would have been a good fight.
It was pretty badass. But yeah. I mean, he's a fat guy. You know, he just looks like, you know, he's kind of chubby, heavyweight, and shorter dude, and just fucking beat the fuck out of him, though. He got heavy hands.
Dude, you talk about the old ones. Was it Fedor Emelianenko? One of the original MMA, like before MMA was a thing in the States.
Yeah.
Have you watched any of his old fights?
Yeah, like the when he was doing the
Pentachron?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
It's pancreas. Pancreas, whatever.
No, those are amazing fights.
Yeah, that's some good shit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, like the original UFC with the no time limits and shit.
No time limits, no weight class?
Yeah.
Those are just funny to watch now.
It was, but when you looked at it, though, then it was, because I remember watching it like...
Dude, I remember going to Blockbuster Video and renting the shit out of that.
Yeah, and we were like, dude, this is fucking nuts.
I know.
Now it's kind of... But, I mean, there are weight classes, there's rules. It's not quite as crazy. But I like no weight class fights, too. I mean...
Well, I mean, Horse Gracie weighed in at, whatever, 160 pounds?
He's like 176 or some shit. 170 something.
Just fucking own people.
Yeah, but he got fucked up, too, so...
Eventually.
You know, yeah. I mean, one man can only do so much. That's what it all proves. We're all pussies when it comes down to it. We all have our limits.
Yeah, we're all human.
That's true. Fuck being human. So, what's your favorite sport of all?
Favorite sport of all? Baseball.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
And you're a Cardinals fan?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's lame.
What, am I supposed to be a Cubs fan? That's going to make me cool?
Something else. I don't know. Whatever.
Why does being a Cardinals fan make me lame?
I don't know. Just I felt like saying that.
Okay.
Whatever.
I mean, if I said Yankees and you said that's lame,
that's definitely,
like, I get it.
The Yankees is definitely lame. No, that's cool. So what got you into baseball? Did you play when you were a kid?
Oh my God, yeah. I was all-star travel team by the time I was 8.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And then yeah, and played.
Then you figured out how to masturbate, and then the baseball game went downhill.
No, baseball went downhill when my parents couldn't afford for travel costs. The coach wanted to put me on the AAA team, which would have been interstate travel, and they couldn't afford to pay that. And that was not a good period of my life. So I won a scholarship to space camp.
Yeah.
And when I was like 12, and this would have been the year or two before, two years before that. And my parents couldn't get me to Huntsville, and at the time, till I was about 15, all I wanted to do was be an astronaut or work for NASA. Like, that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I was really good at science. I was good in school, but they couldn't get me to Alabama. Like, I had it. It was paid for.
Yeah.
And so, like, I wrote a letter to space camp and was like, my parents can't do this year. Can we do this next year? Or the next session that they had like that. And they're like, yes. And my parents couldn't do that either.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the actual fuck.
Yeah.
You know, like, we'll sell candy bars for church and we'll do all these bullshit fundraisers, but I can't go do this.
Yeah.
You know, you'll pony up 100.
That was a dream for a lot of us, though. Never got achieved.
Yeah.
I wanted to go to NASA space camp.
I mean, seriously.
Who didn't want to get fondled by an astronaut? Fuck. Jeez, please. Use my body for your pleasure, sir. Take me to the stars.
No, I had discovered masturbation at that point, but didn't realize that would be an issue.
Yeah, it's always an issue.
Just gotta keep the little travel thing at conditioner.
Masturbation's bad, okay? Okay, children. That's not bad. It's just not productive at all. So that's great. Good stuff. So you
Sorry.
so you like to read too?
I do.
What do you read?
Everything.
You told me you liked books. So
Probably my favorite book series of all time would be the Dune series.
what's that shit about?
Dune?
Yeah.
Um,
Who wrote it?
Frank Herbert.
Frank Herbert. What's it about? Dunes?
No, it's about
The title's a little misleading.
It takes place on a planet called Arrakis that holds the most precious commodity of the Galactic Imperium.
KY jelly?
What?
Is it KY jelly?
Well, jelly is a part of it, but
Ooh, it's Soylent Green, isn't it?
yeah,
Nice.
the
They're
little
eating people.
the little sand slugs, they emit jelly that is sweet to the tongue.
Oh, that's like that shit from Futurama.
I think that's where they got the idea, honestly.
Probably.
No, Dune was written in 1965 by a guy who, like we've all done a variety of jobs. You know, I've worked for an insurance company. I've done insurance inspections. I've built shit. I've also been a cook in a kitchen and done social work, and that variety pales in comparison to what Frank Herbert did in the 50s and 60s. Journalist, writer, undersea photographer, just crazy variety of shit. And he writes this novel that touches on major Western and Eastern religious themes as they pertain to us today.
Yeah.
Talks about a commodity that the entire known world gluttonously uses and fights over. In the books, it's spice, this geriatric herb, like drug substance. For us, the correlation is oil.
Yeah.
It's the most forward thinking, like it's almost fucking prophetic.
Yeah.
And the whole series, like, I have reread the main series that Herbert himself wrote, I think 3 times now. And then I read the supplemental books that his son. Have you ever heard this story? Like, did you know that the series got finished?
No.
Okay.
I don't know anything about any of it. This is the first I've heard of it.
Okay, so the Dune books go through chapter house Dune. There's Dune Messiah.
What's the guy's name who wrote it?
Frank Herbert wrote the book.
Frank.
The book is on your bookshelf, dude.
Well, it's my wife's book, obviously. I haven't read every book here, but I will read it now. I just wrote it down. Read it.
All right, this is your homework assignment. You and Andrew need to read this book.
Oh, okay. Yeah. My brother doesn't read.
Your brother needs to read because I love your brother. Like, and sometimes, and he's my boss, so this is where I'm gonna get fired. But he's distracting because if I say the wrong thing, he snaps on a political social tangent, which at points is enlightening, thought-provoking, and occasionally hilarious.
Yes.
So, which is why
That should be the main goal.
Well, the first podcast was all of those things.
Yeah.
But he's a pretty sharp dude, and he would go nuts in one direction. I would love to hear what you have to say in our anarchy conversations, our political social structure conversations. Read the damn book.
Read what book?
Dune.
Oh, that one.
And there's some pretty fierce fighting involved too.
Oh, there you go. That's good.
You'll dig it.
All right.
And there's sex. Some of it's twisted and perverted, but some of it's legit.
Whoa. Sounds even better. I like it. I like it a lot. So,
George R. Martin's got nothing on Frank Herbert.
yeah. So, what's your favorite genre then? Like fiction? What do you think?
No. I would. My favorite genre would probably be narrative anthropological.
Narrative anthropological.
An anthropologist or sociologist that goes into a culture that's not their own,
Yeah.
and spends a period of time or has a series of experiences, does a series of research, but instead of writing it in like an academic journal format, like all super scientific and technical, they write it as a narrative. This was their personal journey through this experience.
That sounds pretty cool.
So you probably saw the movie or saw of the movie, The Lost City of Z.
I've not seen it.
I mean, some of the best books I've ever read are written like that. Yeah, the Lost City of Z was one. Empires of Light was one, which was this. There were a group of scientists and business people that interacted with both Edison and Tesla.
Yeah.
And some of the cutthroat between them actually impacted Edison and Tesla's relationship.
No shot.
And that very interesting story.
Yeah.
I read a book that was authored by like fourth generation removed. One of the last surviving descendants of Doc Holliday and his personal journey. Like, so none of these books are related to each other at all. They're mostly like history or cultural.
Yeah.
But they're told in a narrative format, and they're more about the human condition than the sensationalism of the story.
Yeah.
And that's what I like the most.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I like it. Sounds good. Right on. So what's your favorite? So is that Dune your favorite book then? Or is that just your favorite author?
No, that's my favorite book series.
Book series. What's your favorite book?
My favorite book would be The Hobbit.
The Hobbit. Yeah.
I mean, I've read it dozens and dozens of times.
So who's your favorite author?
Favorite author.
Yeah.
Can't call it.
What's your favorite book written from the point of view of an animal?
Favorite book written from the point of view of an animal. Redwall.
Okay. So now, what's your favorite kind of food?
Italian seafood.
Italian seafood, like fettuccine alfredo with shrimp or something, or
No. You evolve.
what do you want?
Like
Tell me what you want. You want scampi?
I want skimpy. Oh, wait, no.
Yeah,
we're not.
you
We're
go.
not talking about that. All right, we're not there yet. We don't know each other that well.
Jeez.
No.
I hope your wife doesn't listen.
She just texted me because I said somewhere around 9:00. Oops.
Well, it's only an hour late. Don't worry about it. It's in the realm of reasonability with you.
Oh, that was a dig.
Yeah.
It was deserved, but it
was funny.
All right. Full disclosure. Left to my own devices, I'm late with everything.
Yeah. We don't have to talk about that. We're talking about your favorite food. So what's your favorite dish? How's that?
Probably lobster tail. Prepared just about any way.
Oh yeah, that sounds fair.
I have a strong affinity to shrimp tacos of just about any variety.
Yeah, shrimp tacos are good.
But as Kevin would say, they got to be American. I want to see some alternative vegetable combinations in there, and surprise me with some seasoning.
Like rutabaga.
Bring it.
Why not? I like it.
I had a rosemary and lemon zest, just whitefish, tilapia or whatever, with cabbage, and it was something else. It was like a one-day thing, like the day special at Indie Taco.
Oh yeah.
It was just mind-blowingly good. Like, it was so good. I got my usual 3 tacos, and then I went back and got 2 more because I'm like,
now I want some fucking tacos.
no, right?
You ruined it for me, man. Thanks. Thanks for nothing.
I don't usually like mussels or oysters, but there was a restaurant in Broad Ripple. It's not even there anymore. 1010, and they did this, and I'm not even gonna say the name. I'll butcher it, but it was mussels in a like a wine sauce, over spaghetti, and it was, I mean, it was just amazing.
That's awesome. I like it.
Pretty much anything at Kona Jack's is great.
Yeah. What's your favorite kind of wine?
Sangiovese.
What's your favorite kind of cheese?
Asiago.
What's your favorite kind of ice cream?
The darkest, deepest chocolate fudge you can find.
I like it. Boxers or briefs?
Boxer briefs.
Boxer briefs. Okay.
Yeah.
What's your favorite kind of vehicle?
I enjoyed driving my Jeep Cherokee. I owned 4.
Yeah.
I still have one. My favorite kind of it's got to be the large SUV.
Yeah. You like the big SUVs?
Jeep Cherokee's not, but man, I do like driving that Expedition that I got, and I can haul a mountain of tools and all my kids and all their sports bullshit, and still have room for a cup of coffee and 2 Mountain Dew for later in the day.
Yeah.
So,
what's your favorite kind of coffee?
Probably the Starbucks French roast.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's pretty good. Do you like dark or milk chocolate?
Dark.
Nice. I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Right. So fucking A, man. That's cool. So what's your favorite lie ever told?
My favorite lie ever told.
It doesn't have to be yours. It can be anybody's.
No. All right. This is great. This is a good story. So, I'm at college, but I would come home, which was like a 35-minute drive, because I got better paid at the restaurant that I worked at over the summer.
Yeah.
But my brother had let the magic smoke out of my car. He was still in high school, but wanted to be an auto mechanic when he was done playing football, or wanted to work on cars. And he's like, I bought a battery for my little Ford Escort. He's like, I'll put it in for you. And I'm like, my dad's like, no, he's got it. He's done my car and everything. Well, what he didn't tell me, and he didn't tell me this till years later, was that he hooked the battery cables up in reverse. So the whole thing fucking smokes. And then the car was never right again after that. I spent like 6 months off and on trying to fix this damn thing.
Yeah.
And like lights are blinking in weird ways. And just totally fucked my car up. Well, at this point, the car's dead. It's totally fucked up. And I'm hitching rides back to town so that I can go to work at this steakhouse. And more backstory. So my brother's best friend, kind of a throwaway kid for his parents. So at like freshman year, they can't drive. This kid starts sleeping on my dad's couch.
Yeah.
And after 2 years, my dad buying him school clothes and supporting him, giving him rides, whatever. My dad goes to this kid's mom and stepdad and says, he's been living on my couch for 2 years. You guys dropped his stuff off on my porch, never said anything, never called. We live a mile away.
Yeah.
I had the papers drawn up. Let me adopt him. No judgment, no custody issue. Let me adopt him. I could put him on my insurance. He could stay with me till he graduates.
Yeah.
And they just said, okay, where do we sign?
Yeah.
So and they're best friends to this day. Like they're super tight. So Aaron and Matt picked me up from work. It's like midnight, and they said that they'd take me back to school, but they needed to go see these girls at Perkins.
Yeah.
It's the only all-night diner.
Oh yeah, of course.
So that was at midnight. It's now 4 a.m. They've got school. I don't have class till noon, so I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But they're like, dude, we've been late 10 times this semester already. And I'm like, what the fuck? And they're like, we're in so much trouble. And I'm like, newspaper just got here, go get it. They're like, what? I'm like, the newspaper just got here, go get it. And God forgive me for this. So I'm like, hold on. So I have my laptop with me because I'm at school. So I type it up. I'm like, please excuse my son and Matt Walden from school. Their great aunt, Norma McKinney, passed away in Pekin, Illinois. So I just looked up the obit, found this random lady, typed out a note. So they printed it out, and they took it to school. Like they took it to school late. And then what I didn't know is that they cut school the next day for the funeral. So this is early in the year. This is like September, October. My dad gets a call in April from Dr. Holmes, and he was our principal all through school.
Yeah.
And he's like, Mr. Toll, I got to tell you, I'm a little concerned. And he's like, what? And he's like, the boys get in trouble again. He's like, no. But your aunt Norma McKinney's died for the 4th time this year. There you go. That's my favorite lie. So I wrote that for them, and they overused it a little bit.
Yeah, apparently. You only get 1 death per person, people. Just keep that in mind, too. Any of you youngsters that are out there listening, don't try to tell them your same grandma died twice.
Matt and Aaron were up to no
Yeah.
good. So I told you I ran this summer camp for a couple summers. I get back from summer camp, and I meet up with the girl that we'd been seeing each other off and on, and we're just going to rent a movie and go hang out at her house. Not Netflix and chill, but like literally rent a movie.
Yeah.
And
that was the thing before, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah, when you actually went to a video store and rented a video cassette.
You had to go back through the little like curtain to go look at the pornography, and then everybody looked at you when you walked out. It's like a little bell dinged.
It's funny that you mentioned that. So, small town, all 3 video stores are like, it would take you more time to get back in your car, drive, negotiate the corner and the lights, and get to the next video store than just walk across the fucking street.
Right.
So, Family Video, Blockbuster, and Hollywood Video, all right next to each other. We're going to go rent a movie. And we found the movie we wanted. You've got like $15 in late charges. I'm like, I've been gone for 4 fucking months. I'm like, all right, whatever. Walk across the street to Blockbuster. Yeah, you've got $28 in late charges, and it says you still have this PlayStation game out. I'm like, all right. This is my brother and Matt using my card. Like, I'm going to kill him. That's fine. Go to Hollywood Video. Same story. And she's like, this all takes place in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm like, no big deal. We'll drive down the street to Family Video. And they're like, yeah, you're $35 overdue on Debbie Does Dallas 99. And I'd blown her off the night before. I'm like, no, I'm tired and everything. And so she turns to me. There's people behind us in line now. And the people, the employees standing there at the counter. She looks at me. She's like, you really were busy last night. And I'm like, I swear to God, it wasn't me.
Right.
So.
Sure it wasn't.
And she's like, prove it. And I'm like, I'll bet you right now, if we drive up to my dad's house, my brother and Matt are playing that PlayStation game, and that porno is sitting on top of the stack of all the other rented movies, and my dad doesn't pay any attention if it's not what he rented.
Yeah.
And so she's like, really? And I'm like, let's go. Come on, drive me up there. And at the time, all I had was a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Drives me up there. Sure enough, they're playing Metal Gear Solid, and there's Debbie Does Dallas 99 and its little black case from Family Video sitting on top of the fucking TV.
Bastards. I bet they had really pristinely waxed carrots, though.
When my dad moved out of that house, the amount of lubrication bottles found underneath the couch,
I bet it was shocking.
It was disgusting.
Yeah, that's terrible. I don't need to hear any more of that. So what's your favorite vacation?
Sorry.
Don't be checking my mic stand, bro.
Yeah, because my leg's cramping.
You're harshing my buzz. All
right. Going to my buddy's ranch in Colorado.
Yeah.
All the time.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite thing right now?
My favorite thing right now.
Yeah.
Watching my kids get older and not being as worried that I'm fucking them up as much as I was afraid I was.
Good answer.
Legitimately my favorite thing.
That's nice. That's been everyone's favorite show. Thank you for listening. And until next time, be fucking cool.